And thank you for watching. I'm Jemai Hakwani. I have Bob Coffey today from House District 30. He's a candidate and you're on the ballot. So when did you decide to run? Was it something that just transpired in the last year or so, or was it something you thought
It was
about?
in January. I got a call from the wife of a very good friend of mine, and she asked me, have you ever considered running for office? And I thought it was a practical joke, and I didn't respond right away. And then I got another call a couple days later saying, no, really, have you ever thought about running for public office? And so I started talking to my wife, and I made the decision to run, I guess, in late February.
So you got in just before when the
Yes.
deadline was, I think.
Yes.
The deadline is usually about March 20th, I think, right? to
About
file.
that time, yes.
Okay, but those are always good decisions, though, sometimes, because you really want to do it, because you know the commitments all the way till
Yes.
November there. So how are you feeling so far? What do you?
Pretty good. We have had a very fun campaign of hitting a lot of doors and meeting a lot of new people in my district, and I've really enjoyed that, getting out and talking with people. I've been teaching this electioneering and campaigning since 2002 when I started teaching, and now I'm doing it, and it's really interesting.
Yeah, you've been an educator since then, right?
Yes.
You got into teaching at that point. What school did you?
Highland High School.
My former high school.
Yeah.
Go
Hornets.
Yes, exactly. Go Hornets. When you're out there knocking on doors, what are they telling you? What are
It's
they asking
interesting.
You hear all these variety of comments, right?
Yes.
I remember doing door knocking. It was quite an experience. And so, what are they?
People are generally extremely nice, and they've been very, very gracious when a stranger comes to their door, and we have a variety of conversations. Education seems to be on the minds of a lot of people. Creating more jobs seems to be a big issue. Mental health, or the access to mental health, seems to be a very big issue.
Overall economy, I think you probably get a lot of.
Yes.
Yeah, because the economy is, right now.
Yes.
We're like in negative 5,900 jobs last few years. This last year, fiscal year, we lost a lot of jobs there. Right. And ever since the sequester, we've been hurting a lot. So we haven't been able to come out. The hindrance has been the private sector that haven't jumped in. And we always talk about this on the show, where the private sector didn't jump in and kind of bail us out in some ways. We were hoping when the current governor came in that she may bring in some investments and investors and stuff, not just larger ones. I'm talking about just general investors.
Yeah.
We always talk about Tesla and things like these are large corporations looking for home bases, battery factory. They call it the gigafactory. Mentioned that on the show many times before. Right. I'm not sure what your opinion is on a larger business like that. What is your overall opinion on, say, we'll take the economy and then we'll move on to some education and all that?
Well, I think the policy of the governor has been business friendly, but not job friendly. And business friendly by rewarding tax breaks for out-of-state corporations and not rewarding homegrown corporations per se. I think also, I was just reading an article last night actually from a retired professor at UNM who's a professor of entrepreneurship. And his paper was based upon studies out of Singapore and how Singapore from the 1960s to today, how it's grown. And one of the major reasons why Singapore's has grown so significantly as the country made a significant commitment to growing local businesses. Initially, it was a country that was depending on multinationals to come in, but now through 1980s and through the 1990s, there were infrastructure investments into to help local economies grow, find markets, operate more immediately find information sources and capital sources.
Correct. Yeah, Gary King was here. He's running for governor, and when he was here, he was talking about micro businesses with 2 or 3 employees. He said, I was a small business. I
Right.
think I would rather focus on micro businesses than the larger ones because they're a lot more easier. There's about 150,000 small business owners. If each one of them added a singular job there, it could turn our economy around, and I think you would agree with me on that.
I would.
And you agree with Gary on that too. I think
Yeah.
it made sense to me, and I said, yes, when I look at it, the numbers look really good if you focus. Not to say that we don't want larger business. When Intel came in a few years back, I remember it was a huge ruckus about it. But they've been here for a while. They created a lot of jobs there. Difficult businesses to bring, though.
Yes.
Do you agree?
I would agree.
So we're focusing on that smaller and medium size, probably the way to go, I think.
Well, and it seems that our state is competing against other states for these large corporations like Tesla. And I suppose competition is good in that regard. On the other hand, it's pitting one state against another, and so
Because there's 4 states behind Tesla now. They involve California, Arizona, Texas, New Mexico. So we're not sure if we're
And
gonna-
Nevada.
And Nevada too, I think,
Yeah.
is in the game now. And it's a gigafactory. I think there's a lot of money involved there, several $1 billion over the years, and they're probably looking for incentives.
Yes, and I think if we offer incentives, we better reap wild profits out of those incentives that we offer at Tesla. We need a long-term commitment if we're going to invest. I guess some proposals are $500 million to lure them here.
And naturally, they're going to look for that. And Arizona is doing that. They're passing legislation friendly to them and stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, the next thing we want to talk about before we go for a break here is education. You've been an educator. You were talking about education before. We rank pretty low in the nation. And I know this is something we need to talk about a little bit more as far as early childhood and all that. The expenditure, should we raise it, keep it the same? What are your thoughts on some of this stuff?
I think we have to have a cradle-to-career approach and tap into the big investment pool that we have, which is the permanent land grant.
Let me take a break. I promise you, we'll come back, we'll talk about the same education, and we'll continue from there.
Okay.
We'll take a short break. We'll be back with Bob Coffey.